In the video today, we are going to talk about sweeping. So I'm going to show you a few different types of sweep. We're going to show you just a basic sweep like what you see. I'll show you how to create sweeps around objects, sweeps that go along a path, and maybe even some twisted sweeps. Okay, so let's take a look at just the basics. So we'll start with a circle though, right? Just something simple. Let's change the path a little bit. So we'll click Finish Sketch. I'm going to go back and expand origin. Remember, I'm looking for a perpendicular plane, and the XY is going to work. So I'll right click on it and say Create Sketch. This time I think I'll just use the spline. So I'll click there on the origin, and remember I'll double click and that'll stop the spline tool. So create, and then we'll go to sweep, choose our profile, and then choose our path. And there it is, there's a sweep. Let's take a look now at how to create a sweep that maybe goes around an object. Think of like a router, something like that, where I want to go around an edge, or maybe even something as simple as like a yo-yo. Let's get us a new sketch. So I'm going to start here. I'll choose the XY plane this time. And I'm just going to make a square, or excuse me, a rectangle. And I'll click Finish Sketch. And I'm going to extrude it. So I'm going to click Sketch. I'm just going to click on the edge here. Now, if I want to do an outside, I can make me some sort of shape for this to follow. So there, kind of close it off. You see it turned to blue. So I'll click Finish Sketch. And in this case, what I'd like to do is make that go all the way around this thing. So I'm going to go up to Create, and I'm going to say Sweep. For my profile, I'm going to click right there on the shape I drew. And then for Path, I'll click each line, but I need to hit the Control key. And the Control key will let me select multiple. Okay, now when I click OK, you can see that there is that I've created. Now if I want to do a cut, it's kind of similar process. This time I'm just going to keep it simple. I'll use a circle here. And I'm going to finish the sketch. I like to rotate it in such a way that I can see the lines that I know I'm going to click. So I'll go to Create and I'll say Sweep. Click the part that I actually want to cut. Now for Path, same process. I want to hold that Control key down. And I'm just going to click all four sides of this, and then I'll click OK. And it makes that cut for me. Let's take a look at something more like this. Now this is a little more advanced, and sometimes we get these kind of shapes. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to start with what do I want it to follow on the bottom. So I'm just going to make a somewhat more of a complex shape here. I'll start with maybe that, and then I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just to have some perspective here, maybe 2 inches apart. And like I said, there's really not a specific dimension we need to follow. I'm just going to connect these with lines, and I think I'll use that tangent constraint to get these. That one's already there. Just to clear it up, I'm going to use the trim and get rid of some of this extra geometry that we don't need anymore. So I'll click Finish Sketch. So now I've kind of got the bottom. That's what I want this thing to look like. So I'm going to go to Origin right here, just like we did before. And I'm going to get that perpendicular plane. In this case, the XY would work. XZ is not going to work. The YZ is not really going to work either in this case. And you'll see why here in just a second. So I'm going to right click and say, all right, give me that XY and let's create a sketch on that. Now right now I don't have a good end point, so I'm going to press the P key for projecting. And I'm just going to click, and that's going to treat that as it's a line, and I'll click OK. Now you notice I have some end points to click on. So I think I'll make this back edge, I'll take the line tool and just draw a line up. This is going to be what I would call my guide. And then I'll take the spline tool and go over here to the other side. And I'll double click to finish that, right? So when I rotate this after I've clicked Finish Sketch, after I orbit this rather, we've got a shape that looks kind of like that. And what I'll do is I'll go to create. I'm going to say sweep. Now this one's going to take the form. It's a little bit different on the type. We're going to say path and guide rail. Okay, so my path, excuse me, my profile, let's get that first. That's going to be that avocado kind of shape I've clicked before. For my path, that's going to be this line in the back. And then for my guide rail, that's going to be that rascal over there. Well, some things to maybe consider. I could say perpendicular. Let's try full extents and see how it kind of traced up that entire path that time. So let's take a look finally at how to do like a twisted series. So let's think back to what we do now. We're going to do a basic pattern. I think what I'm going to do is just use a polygon tool. And I'll just use an inscribed polygon here. And I think what I'll do is say, you know what? I'll tab over and I'm going to make this, let's do like 5 sides. So we'll do like a pentagon. And then I can kind of size that however you want to. Let's just do something simple and say 0.25, I guess. And I'll press. I'm trying to center that up. Press OK. And we could, if we wanted, we could dimension and say from here to the origin. Let's make that an even 1 inch. From here, I'll go to create and I'll say, let's do a circular pattern. So for my object, you can just draw a box around the pentagon. For my center point, I'll choose the origin. And then let's say for quantity, why don't we make that like, let's just stick with 5s. Okay, so I've got a pentagon of pentagons and I'll click OK. Alright, so I'll hit finish sketch. Now, what I want to do is get the path, right? I've just created a profile sketch, but now I'm going to create a path. So same concept as before. I'm going to find a perpendicular path. So the XZ will work, so would the YZ. I'll just right click and say create sketch. And I think I'll use that spline tool again. And remember to double click to finish that. So let's see what we got here. I've got a pentagon of pentagons and I'm getting ready to follow that spline. So let's do that. Same as before, I'll go to create. I'll say sweep. I need to change this back. Remember, it's set to path and guide rail because that's what we just did. But we'll go to single path again. For profile, I'm going to click every pentagon here. And for path, I'll select the spline. This can really bog down Fusion quite a bit. So if I want to add a twisting effect to that, if you look here, I've got a taper angle that I can deal with, and I've got a twist angle I can deal with. Let's try something simple like 25. Now be patient with it. Mine did really, really fast that time. I've tried others and it takes forever. Let's try something really big, like, I don't know, let's try 405. And remember, you got to give it some time.